I have a big voice. I don't necessarily need a microphone, as all of you know. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of our guests here, which you're going to see up on the stage. This is a super important event, and I really wanted our senior students to be here because you are so close to being out of here and into the real world. And I knew that you would respect this ceremony for what it is, and also, you're also going to appreciate the service that someone does in order to be able to get this. So that is why you're here today, but it is a great privilege to be here today in order to honor a member of our Goshen High School family, Gunner's Mate 3rd Class Richard Albert Berger. And we added a picture of him and his wife up here because I think sometimes it makes it a little bit more real, particularly for high school students to see when we're talking about history, that there are faces that go along with that. I'm extremely proud, as I said, to have our current senior class here today to be a part of this ceremony. It's also important for you to know that Ohio law allows public school districts to confer a high school diploma to veterans who have served in any branch of the United States Armed Services between September 16, 1940 and the end of the Vietnam War. The applicant must meet the following requirements as established by Ohio Revised Code. The graduate must have been an honorably discharged veteran. The veteran is an Ohio resident or was enrolled in any high school in the state of Ohio. And the veteran left school prior to graduation in order to serve in the armed forces of the United States. For a second, sit and think about that as you are 17, 18, sometimes 19 years old, and having to make a decision to leave high school to go fight for your country. That's a pretty, that's an interesting thought and feeling, a decision that you would have to make. I ask that everyone in the audience honor this occasion with the respect that it deserves. We want this ceremony to be remembered by his family with pride. At this time, I would like to turn this over to our band, who are going to start our ceremony with the Navy hymn, which is entitled Eternal Father, Strong to Save.
Good morning. Richard Albert Berger, his friends called him Dick, was born on June the 19th, 1924 to older parents Albert and Cora Berger. He had 2 older sisters, one who passed before his birth. Dick's family struggled during the Great Depression, and he left high school at the age of 17 and joined the United States Navy in August of 1994. Dick had completed his basic training and was aboard a ship headed to Pearl Harbor when the Japanese attacked. Dick was then assigned to the Pacific Fleet upon America's entrance into World War II. One of the naval battles that he was most proud of being a part of was the Battle of Guadalcanal, which started in August of 1942. During that battle, the Japanese lost 24,000 men to America's 1,600, not counting the malaria and tropical diseases that killed thousands more on both sides. A turning point of the war in the Pacific was this Allied victory at Guadalcanal, which was the first step in a long string of successes that eventually led to the surrender of Japan and the occupation of the Japanese homelands. He remained in the Pacific until shortly before the invasion of Africa in November of 1942. He was then transferred to that area, participating in the first 8 days of fighting in the campaign designed to free Southern Europe and the Mediterranean from Nazi control. Dick was wounded in action during this time in Africa and returned home to the United States for hospitalization and enjoyed a little furlough, but he did not tell his parents he had been wounded. Before he knew it, he had returned to the Pacific, where by war's end he had earned a total of 5 medals and 7 stars. The medals included an Asiatic Pacific Area Medal, a Philippine Liberation Ribbon, a European Theater Bar, a Spearhead Okinawa Bar, a Spearhead Pre-Pearl Harbor Bar, which included a deep sea diving certification. Even fellow officers did not believe all that he had accomplished. The remainder of the war was anticlimactic for him. While Dick was serving in the Navy, his older sister, Norma Berger Gertz, GHS class of 1938, was also an Army nurse in London. What a stressful time it must have been for their parents. Fast forward 4 years, when the war had concluded, and the man now known as gunner's mate, 3rd class Richard A. Berger, now 22, had survived the war and was honorably discharged on October the 5th, 1945. Thankfully, both he and his sister made it home safe and sound. Dick was married during the war, and he and his bride bought a home in Pleasant Plain, Ohio. He went back to school to become a barber and set up a shop next to his house. He and his wife raised 2 daughters, who are both Goshen graduates. He also has 2 granddaughters, one of whom is also a Goshen graduate, and a grandson who bears his name. Out of his 6 great-grandchildren, 2 are Goshen graduates. He was also a Goshen school bus driver in the 50s. Additionally, he sold real estate, he worked part-time for the post office, became a justice of the peace for Pleasant Plain, and flipped houses. He raised Brittany Spaniels and loved to hunt and to travel. He joined the Morrow VFW, where he became a chaplain. In the 1960s, he built a new house on the outskirts of Pleasant Plain and lived there until his wife died in 1984. He then sold everything and moved to Morrow, where he lived in a small apartment behind a barbershop he owned and operated. He passed away in 1997 at the age of 73 and is buried in the Goshen Cemetery with his Gibbs family relatives. His family appreciates the opportunity for him to receive his diploma posthumously. Congratulations to Dick Berger and his entire family.
So for the senior class sitting out there, in a few short months, you're going to hear the exact same words that I'm going to be saying to you at graduation. So this is a little bit of, I don't know, it's going to warm it up for you a little bit, make it a little bit more real. Mr. Edwards and the members of the Board of Education, as principal of Goshen High School, I hereby certify that Gunner's Mate 3rd Class Richard Albert Berger has met the requirements of the state of Ohio in the Goshen Board of Education, and as such is eligible to receive his diploma. We are grateful for his ultimate sacrifice to our country in order to ensure our freedom and democracy. Richard's diploma will be accepted in a few minutes by members of his family, but I would like to first introduce them so that you see, again, putting faces with names and understanding that there's a legacy that takes place within families. They are here today because they are so proud of their relative. This is a really big deal. So first of all, we have Richard's daughter, Janice, is here. If you would give a little wave to everybody so they see who you are. His son-in-law, Carl, is here as well. Wave and be seen. We want to know who you are. Yep. Son-in-law. Grandson. Okay, son-in-law. There we go. Carl. Grandson. Okay, my mistake. Grandson, who was named after him, Rich, is here today. Daughter, Deborah, is here. Son-in-law, Stephen, is not able to be here, but granddaughter, Andrea, is here as well. Members of the audience, if you would, please stand. As typical of graduation ceremonies, at this time, I would like to recognize our newest Goshen High School graduate, Richard Albert Berger. And again, family member Rich is going to accept his diploma. You may be seated now. In closing, students, it is important to know that history has taught us over and over again that freedom is not free. When push comes to shove, the ultimate protectors of freedom and liberty are the brave men and women in our armed forces. Throughout history, they've answered the call in bravery and in sacrifice. We're going to close with our band, and they're going to be performing Anchors Away. Students, if you would, before I release you, if you would stand one more time, and let's give the family a round of applause, because I know. Okay, at this time, our seniors, you can go back to class. Thank you very much for being a wonderful audience.